Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be watching and figuring out how Pure, the carry for Entity, went 10-0-7 and had 400 CS at minute 30. I'm not kidding, I'll skip ahead to minute 30 here. Literally almost, okay, we're not even at minute 30. 400 CS at minute 30. That is 150 higher than the second highest in this game. Entity also is going to TI this year, so they're a very formidable team that actually took down Secret in the grand finals of the EU qualifiers. So I'm very impressed by Pure's gameplay. I love him as a player. I think his hero pool is really cool. And let's check out how Pure, as a Shadow Fiend player, manages to make this hero look insane. And now I want to tell you guys a little bit about DOTAPLUS from Overwolf. This is a free stats app you guys can download right now that's going to show you your stats for the last 3 months. So if you want to know your games played, your MMR, your win rate, your XPM, your GPM, all of these things you need to track to know how well you're doing and what you need to change to gain MMR, you can get for absolutely free. On top of that, the biggest reason why you need to download DOTAPLUS, at least for me, is the ban suggestions. Basically, it tells you what the enemy team is good at. It tells you their best heroes, what they've been winning with. You just ban it. You might be wondering why your good heroes, why your best heroes keep getting banned. It's because of DOTAPLUS. The enemy team is using it and banning out your best heroes. So go download DOTAPLUS right now, and I'll see you guys there. So the first thing that Pure does this game, which is honestly stupid, the fact that this is a play that works. Like, literally the player you're about to watch looks so heinous, it's insane. How is this a play? Like, literally, Rezo gets off the shield crash, and it doesn't matter. He hits him with 2 raises, that drops Pango's movement speed to 210, because Raze is slow now, and he just walks him down. Pretty crazy stuff, but if you're going to play Shadow Fiend in the safe lane, you should actually take raises and look to get first blood. The key, from what I'm watching here, is to obviously go for a play in coordination with your position 5. Right, you don't want to raise outside of your position 5 because you don't have enough mana to really sustain the ability. It's all about getting that first blood and then not really worrying too much about the spell, at least not for a bit. So the next thing to note is that with his first blood gold, he actually picks up a Bassi, so he is trying to sustain the raises. I honestly thought for a bit he wouldn't even bother. He would just start building into presence of the Dark Lord and going for treads, but that's not what Pure does here. He actually continues to go for the raises and even looks for kill opportunities throughout the lane. His second item, on the note of being aggressive with raises, is boots, and that's exactly what boots do, right? They allow you to run people down as he looks for a close raise here and actually ends up connecting on it, enabling him to nearly get another kill as he gets it right at the end and finds Zayak on the Tiny. And you can see this is why this hero is so insane. And you might be like, oh, he's against a tiny Pango lane, that's a weak lane. And yes, to be fair, that is a weak lane, and that's part of the reason why he's completely dominating. 18 CS to 6. I mean, this is, this is a bit of a shellacking, but you can see with the Bassi and with the stick, which, by the way, he started with the stick, you can kind of pop off. You could also ask your support for mangoes. Like, supports don't have to give salves anymore, so just spam ask them for mangoes instead. That's the way to go, I think. From there, the main theme of his gameplay is that he's going to pick up Gloves of Haste and just continue to deny creeps. And anytime he gets in range for a medium raise, that's when he looks for the kill. He won't ever really lead with the long raise because that's your chase spell, right? That's the spell that's going to allow you to get that damage, get that slow. And so, yeah, he really looks to lead with the medium in basically every engagement, then go for a long raise, then a small raise with the slow. It's really interesting. You go from medium, then long, then slow, and then finish them off with another medium, right? Because it will come back up while the stacks are still going, right? If you don't know how raise works on Shadow Fiend, the more you hit, the more it slows, and the more damage they do. So basically, you want to stack them on top of each other. You don't just want to casually raise the enemy. You want to make sure if you're going to use 1, you're probably going to use 2, and hopefully 3. And from there, he's going to play like a normal SF. He's actually just going to look to start raising the large creeps once he hits level 7. In fact, this is something that I think you have to do on Shadow Fiend, and I would imagine Pure feels the same way, which is getting towards this 8-minute mark, he just doesn't take the risk. And I think a lot of bad players, even sometimes pro players, will make the mistake of over-defending a tower. Now, at this point in the game, you can see he's going to go back to his safe lane. However, I'd like to specifically note he has complete vision of the remainder of the enemy heroes, right? He literally knows where every single one of them are. And so, yeah, of course he can go back to his lane. And this is what good carry players do, and what Pure's really good at, which is identifying, who kills him. Pango doesn't solo kill him, not with how far behind Pango is, and as a result, he can manage to go back to lane and now look to jungle. And that's what he's going to do. Doesn't raise the mud golems, naturally. Gets this Oculid Bracelet item, which is a pretty stupid item. Actually trades it out. Okay, that's interesting. He trades it out for Lance of Pursuit, which is decent for farming on ranged heroes, because when the creeps turn around, you actually do more damage. And from there on out, the hero is actually very straightforward. He actually doesn't max out the raise, putting a point in Presence of the Dark Lord, when he realizes he's just going to start farming with this Mask of Madness, right? Goes for the armor reduction. From there, I wonder if he skills ulti or raise. I would imagine he's going to go for... I was going to say ult, but he doesn't really have mana for it, so he's actually holding the point at the moment. And yeah, you just keep jungling. So on Dire, and the thing is, you don't really need to be on Dire necessarily for SF. Obviously, the camps are still closer together, but it's not like you really drag the camps together to farm them. Even though you could theoretically try to do that with raises, it's a bit inconvenient and not something I would necessarily recommend. You're better off just clicking creeps to death, so you can definitely pick SF on Radiant or Dire. It's definitely good on either side. From there, Pure makes a beautiful call here on the SF to open up the bottom side of the map for himself. You can see he draws a line from the mid lane telling his supports to smoke to bottom. And what I love so much about this play is, even if it didn't work, right, let's say they don't kill the Bloodseeker, he still would likely get the bottom tower as a result, or at least a place to farm. And this is a big thing to understand as a carry. If you don't have a place to farm and your supports are sitting mid, which is a very, very common thing to have happen in pubs, it happens all the time, you need to tell them, come bottom, open this area of the map for me, gank this for me. And even if they don't get the kill, you can maybe get the tower, right? He can see the Tiny rotating in here, so he's got to be a little bit careful. Okay, as he actually gets rolled on. SF inherently is extremely squishy and killable. Even though he's top net worth by a long shot, he can die quite easily. So please, guys, be extremely careful when playing this hero. In general, don't take the risk. If you're not sure if you should take the risk, this is a hero where I would recommend not taking it. If you're playing Juggernaut with Spin and Omni, yeah, I would say push your limits a little bit. Try to bait some rotations. Take your chances. But you can see here, even when Pango inched at him, he took the long way to the large camp just in case the Tiny was in the area and an Invoker could TP in. Right, so he's really playing it safe, not hitting the tier 1 tower until he has a very clear idea or knowledge that the enemy team is not coming. And so he's really safe about this, really clean about it. Then you get some information that the Pango's mid, the Invoker's mid. They actually mass TP top on the enemy team as well. So let's see if he TP's in here. Yeah, he actually does. So he's looking to join this top side fight. Massive fight breaking out here. Nope, cancels. Okay, so good decision making from there, realizing that his team sucks and just getting out. And yeah, what's crazy about SF is with Mask of Madness D-Lance, your hero is just straight up one of the fastest farming heroes in the game. Like, it's not really complex. You can raise stacks, as we see here, but you don't really even have the mana for that with this item build. Generally, you can do it from time to time, but you don't have too much mana. So for the most part, you just click creeps to death with Mask of Madness and you'll be top net worth. And I feel like I really can't stress this enough, but they were able to get a pick off onto the Invoker, and notice what he does from here on out. He clears the wave, actually hits the tower, and then realizes a second after, like, okay, I shouldn't be doing this, you know? This is not my place. Even though Invoker's dead, he could easily die to toss Rupture, right? Or a good Pango roll. He's got BKB now, so it's the point in the game where he can start to take risk. He can start to look to frontline for his team. There is Rupture, as I said, and there's also Alacrity, which means that him manning up with BKB might not necessarily work. There's plenty of physical damage in the Alacrity Bloodseeker, if that comes out, and Sunstrike. So he definitely has to be a bit weary about being overconfident on the map. So he goes back to the triangle. The triangle is your best friend. Basically, on either side of the map, starting at minute like 12, 13 on average, you want to farm triangle. Typically, when you have your Mask of Madness plus D-Lance, this is a good, a good timer to be like, okay, I should be playing this opposite side of the map optimally. Get my supports to rotate over, have my team help me get this tier 1, open up this portion of the map for me, and enable my game so I can start farming. And he's actually going Butterfly next, which is pretty cool. As I said, he needs an answer for the Rupture Alacrity, and this is definitely it. It gives you quite a bit of armor, and then 35% evasion, as well as the ability just to man up to the Bloodseeker. It's not like it's a great Scotty game. It doesn't do anything really against Bloodseeker. It's actually horrible against Bloodseeker for the most part. And so, yeah, I really love this Butterfly as an answer to the Seeker, who isn't even queuing up an MKB and probably won't have one for a while. On top of that, he actually turns his Mask of Madness into a Butterfly, which is a cool little thing you can do. I'm personally a bit meh about this, as I feel like Mask of Madness is such a high DPS item, but either way, let's move on into the upcoming fight. Now, as you might imagine, I mean, this hero really, I was gonna say it's really brain dead, you know, because you kind of just click with D-Lance, and that's sort of true, but one thing to note is that you want to be kind of faking your ulti a little bit, right? Just considering using it. I don't understand why he ultied there at all. I think he probably doesn't understand why he did it either, as that one was a little bit weird, but you want your team to bring the fight into you. This is a bit of an issue of SF carry. If your team overextends too hard, which definitely happened with Entity here, they went in pretty deep and he couldn't really do anything. He got completely ignored. And so ask your team not to overextend. I know that's really hard in solo queue, but also be the guy who doesn't overextend, right? I know you're probably thinking like, I can't control my team, they're not gonna listen, blah, blah, blah. At least then don't be the guy who overextends, right? At least don't be the guy, because you're gonna get kited. You don't have a slow, right? You might be like, you have Shadow Rays. Okay, I mean, maybe you have a slow, maybe you have a slow. You probably don't. So just don't chase too much. And from there on your Aegis timing, you can start to look to go for towers, right? Now he's got BKB, he's got Butterfly. If they were to go on him, it would be very dangerous, right? Very, very dangerous. They'd have to pop their BKBs for an Aegis, which is risky and kind of bad, as if Team Secret uses their BKBs to kill Pierre's Aegis, they're going to be able to take all the tier 2s knowing the BKBs are down, or even close down the map on Secret. So you can even see him here. He actually pinged his Aegis. He's pinging to his team like, hey, let's keep taking the map. And they actually go for an aggressive smoke with 30 seconds left on the Aegis. Let's see what they do. Smoke breaks on the high ground. They find the Tiny. And the key to a good SF gameplay is really just hitting the closest person. You only want to fear if you know the people around you don't have BKBs and you're saving someone, because in general, your auto attacks just do way too much, as he just explodes the Tiny. And from there, you just man up. You really want to try to run away on SF or reset unless you have Hurricane Pike, which he doesn't yet. This next fight honestly shows how crazy this hero can get. I mean, this fight is straight up dirty. He actually has way more damage than showing. He's hitting for much harder. He also has his shard now. If you don't know what the shard is, basically it gives your Necromastery inactive, where it crits and fears on one auto attack every, I think, 3 seconds. And it's very powerful. It's very powerful because a 0.5 second fear on a hero like SF is basically 2 autos, and that's enough to kill certain heroes like Tiny, right? As he nearly 2-shots the Tiny. And then Rezo goes in. That is so crazy, man. Because also, if we take a quick look at the talents, you have 25 attack speed at 10, which is huge. Presence Aura affects buildings, which helps you siege. And then 3 damage per soul, which is massive. That's a 60 damage talent with max souls. So you can just see how hard your hero actually hits as one auto chunks, absolutely chunks the Bloodseeker and the Chen. All right, moving on into this high ground engagement, we're gonna see the first fight where Pierre looks completely broken. He's 7-0, his net worth is just toppling over the Bloodseeker, a full item ahead of him. And yeah, take a look at this. So he gets tossed in. This is like worst case scenario. You're ruptured, you're in the enemy base. Pops his Pike to try to get out. And he makes the really Chad play of, instead of panicking, realistically he could have even BKB'd earlier, but he actually pops Satanic and pops BKB. And it was really close, and honestly, he almost messed up. Because if you're gonna Satanic, you gotta BKB. And if you're gonna BKB, you gotta Satanic. Because you need these items to enable each other. Does that make sense, right? These items enable each other. Because if he pops out of Aegis with no Satanic but a BKB, he'll still probably die. He can't man up. If he pops out with a BKB and no Satanic, or did I just say the same thing twice? You get the point, right? If he only has one or the other, it's not gonna work. I've been in this scenario before, right? Where I play a lot of Furion. This can happen. Where you're like giga farmed, you kind of just man up, you can't disengage. And if you don't click your Satanic and BKB at the same time, often on first life is actually when you want to click it too, so that they can't get to your backline right away. It's a cool concept that I've learned over time, and yeah, he just mans up, which the Satanic runs out, didn't even get too much value out of it, but gets off a really nice fear here. That's a great fear on the end of the ice path, perfectly timed, nearly taking out the Bloodseeker, unfortunately just not there. So yeah, a bit of a misplay on Pierre's part overall, I would say. Obviously, you don't really want to get tossed into the enemy base when your team isn't very close. So yeah, that definitely was a bit of a mistake, but you can see how powerful he is becoming, and now the data list is going to come online, and that is when SF just chunks your hero. All right, and finally on the subject of manning up in the data list timing, here we go. This is where they kind of win the game as well. This was such a close fight. Rezo gets a good roll on the backline. They nearly get a chain stun on the SF. He actually gets hit by the bot here, and the Rupture just chunks his HP. Rupture does so much damage. But look at what we got here. The Satanic and the BKB comes out. He gets bashed. Things aren't looking great, but the Satanic comes out, and yeah, it actually gets pretty close, I will admit. Not that close at the end of it, but pretty close. Doesn't end up mattering, just completely destroys the Bloodseeker. And yeah, SF actually was picked after the Bloodseeker, which made me think that this was their idea. Pick a carry that doesn't care if he gets ruptured. Pick a carry that when he gets ruptured and ran up by Bloodseeker, will just stand there and fight back. And that's exactly what SF does, better than most other carries. And that's going to be about all for today's video. This hero is kind of insane. Honestly, like even in the mid lane, I don't think SF is broken or anything like that. Even though that's definitely what the title says, so get baited, kids. But the point is that this hero has a lot of potential, right? Especially when you have something like a Jakiro in lane. I think it's really good with Jakiro in lane. I think it's really good with Crystal Maiden in lane. That's probably a great combo, actually. Crystal Maiden SF, because you have so much kill potential at level 1, level 2. You got the mana regen from CM, which is doubled on the heroes that are next to her. So that's really good. I can see that as being a good combo. There's a lot of great combos, but I really like heroes like Jakiro and CM that have these early game disables that can set up the raises, and then the initial disable sets up 2 raises, and then the second raise sets up the third raise because of the SF change. And yeah, you just chunk buildings. Your hero is very well rounded. The only thing it doesn't do well against is repositioning and kite comps, but that's part of the reason why I like it, this game in particular. The enemy team doesn't really have too many long-range poke spells. If they're going to try to kill him, they have to like rupture and run up and hit him. They could try to poke him with meteors, but that's just going to like get force-staffed. Pango Q isn't doing shit, Key's utility. So yeah, they're a very all-in team comp, which makes SF an even better hero as it's hard for them to kite him. That's something to think about too. But alright, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one, and I'm out. Peace!
And that's all, but remember, before you leave, come on, before you tune out, subscribe to the GameLeap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace!